Chapter 21. So, what happened? Alex asked once they were loaded in the truck and on the road. Not much, JV said over the back of her seat. Her dad tried to flex his muscles. Steve stepped in and kept him from touching her. Then Matt gave him his options. He didn't like it, but he settled down and let them talk for a couple hours before deciding it was time to go. Is that all? We came all this way for just a couple hours? She didn't understand. This trip had cost thousands. How could it be for such a short visit? We might hear from them tonight. Nick shrugged as if he didn't care if they heard from them or not. We gave them the option of meeting again tomorrow. Now it's up to him to decide whether or not he takes it. What do we want to do about lunch? Matt asked from behind the wheel. Eat, Rebecca said with a grin. After lunch we should go back to the house, JV said. We can relax a bit while we wait to see if Mr. Sutton decides to call back. Alex looked at her a moment before she realized JV was watching Rebecca. Shifting her gaze, she saw her friend's eyes sliding closed and realized JV was wanting to give her an opportunity to rest. A quiet afternoon sounds good to me, Alex said. Between the trip and the stress of this morning, I'm tired. She knew Rebecca well enough to know she wouldn't voluntarily rest if it held the rest of the group back, but if others wanted to rest, she'd take the opportunity. Saying she was tired so her friend would rest was a small thing to do in her mind. They got back to Matt's house after eating, and Nick and Rebecca disappeared into their bedroom. Alex knew she was going to lay down for a while, possibly take a nap. She'd never been pregnant, but she imagined carrying an extra 20 or 30 pounds everywhere you went, and your center of gravity being off had to be exhausting. That was before she even considered the emotional stress that Rebecca had been dealing with. She might not have come from an ideal family, but compared to what she knew of Rebecca's father, he made Alex's dad look indulgent. While she was growing up, everyone had thought he was extremely strict and controlling. Alex carried the single takeout container that held their leftovers to the fridge while JV went to wash her face. Back in the living room, she found Steve on the sofa and Bobby in the lone recliner. Have a seat, Steve said, motioning to the other end of the couch. She sat, not sure what else to do. It was a little uncomfortable being the only unattached female in Matt's home, but she did her best not to let it show. She'd agreed to come in, hopes he'd finally show some interest in her. But after his confession the night before about his wife, she felt guilty. Did she have any right to hope for more? To hope he could move past his loss and possibly care for her? She really needed more information about him and his deceased wife, but she didn't want to stir up old pain for Matt by talking to him. She was afraid of inadvertently upsetting him, and that was the last thing she wanted to do. Later, JV came out of the bedroom. She would be a good person to ask about Matt. Alex followed her into the kitchen, where she got herself a drink. Have you seen the backyard? Alex asked. No, is it nice? It's beautiful, come look. Alex led her friend out to the small, profusely flowered space. This is nice. I wonder who takes care of this for him. He said he does it himself. You're kidding? JV turned to look at Alex. He told you that? She turned back to admire the greenery. He did. She paused. He also told me he was married before. JV turned and looked at her again. This time Alex could feel her trying to see more. Okay, so spill. I had no clue he gardens, and Matt doesn't talk about his wife, ever. Alex looked away, not wanting to meet JV's gaze while she confessed. I kind of cornered him. She took a deep breath. It started a while back, when I first saw him back in December, to be exact. In December? JV frowned. I saw him at the cons when I was there at Christmas. She shook her head slightly. Anyway, I felt it then, but I wasn't sure what it was. When we went to get him for the wedding, and I felt it again, I was sure of what I was feeling. What was that? I'm drawn to him. The more time we spend together, the stronger it gets. But I didn't know if he felt it. Then, after the wedding, I thought he was avoiding me. I cornered him out here last night and asked him if I was right, and he admitted it. That's when he told me about his wife. JV narrowed her eyes. It's the mating instinct, isn't it? That's what you feel. Alex closed her eyes and gave a quick, guilty nod. I assume my brother feels it too? If he didn't, why would he have been avoiding me? You have a point. So what now? Are you going to act on it? I don't know. Alex looked at her feet. I would like to, but I don't want to overstep. I'd hate to push him into something he's not ready for. I just don't know. I don't think he does either. He asked me to give him time. It's not unheard of for people who've lost a spouse to marry again, or even to find a mate. Lost a spouse? You mean he and his wife weren't mated? Alex did a double take. It had never occurred to her that they might not have been mated. No, JV gave Alex a sad smile. They were high school sweethearts and never even looked at anyone else all the way through school. They married shortly after college, but they weren't mates. He was willing to give up that connection to stay with each other. Now that she's gone, I'm kind of glad they weren't mated. She shot Alex a serious look. If you repeat that, I'll deny it. But if they'd been mated, he likely would have mourned himself to death after she was killed. As it was, we thought he might. I can't imagine how bad it would hurt to lose someone you love that much. Did he tell you it wasn't just Connie he lost? He told me about the baby, if that's what you mean. It was. JV looked out across the yard. We weren't close at the time. I was going through some issues of my own. But it was hard not to be affected by his loss, by his pain. I didn't know Connie well, but what I did know of her, I liked. She turned and looked at Alex. I'd love to see him as happy as I am. If you can do that for him, I'm all for it. But be sure. He's had enough pain for a lifetime. Alex agreed. He had. And she didn't want to hurt him, but what if they could have what her parents had?